This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world.
So, what do you want to talk about? I want to know. Well, I do want to know what you're going to talk about, but also, I want to know, like, what brought you here to this moment, at this exact moment in time? Like, how did G get here?
How did I get? So I think it's so funny because it was like I was on the other side, like interviewing Femme House, and like now we're here. And it's so funny. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, because my partner drags me every time. They're like, I was trying to get you to do a Femme House workshop with me for over a year, and then now look at you. You're working for them. You're doing all the things. I'm like, listen, chill off of me. It takes its time, you know? And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. But yeah, it was so great. I got asked by the amazing She Shreds company. Fabi hit me up and was like, yo, I have this story. Like, I would love for you to tap in and talk to Femme House. And I was like, okay, cool. And I knew about it, like I said, because my partner, I was like, this is dope. Okay, let's see what this is about to be about. And it was so great to meet you all and just like connect and just like hear all the things that you all did and what you're continuing to do and what you're manifesting. So it was great. And I just kept bothering you and like hitting you up all the time.
I think you have that mistaken. I am almost certain that I kept bothering you.
But yeah, so now we're here. So I feel very grateful because there's just so many people that you all have touched and talked to that I admire and that I fangirl over. So it feels a little bit of me like having to like talk to myself like, yeah, G, you deserve to be here. Like, chill out.
There's no imposter syndrome here, baby.
Right.
We've had a lot of people in the community manager position, and they've all been, great in their own right. But like, this feels so. It feels like you're part of the original team, like the original team that built this thing. Like it's so effortless. Like it fits in a way that it's kind of like lightning in a bottle. It doesn't happen very often. Especially with small teams. It's hard to go into small teams. I mean, You do a lot of sort of like grassroots community work, like very, I don't want to say insular, but like very close-knit communities and sort of like subgenres of community. So I'm sure you know how difficult it is to be like, to like break into a new situation and like build trust and build family and all that stuff. Tell me some more about like the work that you do, because you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so for folks who are like astrology boos or queers, like I'm a Capricorn, so I'm always doing all the things. And I appreciate the point that you were saying about just like coming into new spaces, right? I think a lot of my work, especially when I got into music in the first place, was due to Girls Rock, which is an international program that teaches young people, trans youth, queer youth about music and using music as a political tool to teach it. And so a lot of my like entering into this work was just like working with young people, like getting straight into the organization. And after being invited, being like, okay, so how can I get in this? How can I be involved in this? And then Girls Rock, like really introducing me to like what political education looks like and how I can use my music as a tool to do that. And then through that, just like being like, okay, so this is cool. Like, how can I get even deeper in community? And so a lot of my background is like in Jackson, Jacksonville, Florida, where I was working with an amazing organization that's doing great work, the Jacksonville Community Action Committee, that does a lot of work with like servicing families who have been subject to state sanctioned violence. So I did a lot of like, going in front of City Hall, yelling at people, like bailing friends out of jail, like doing all those things. But I think a lot of that, like doing that work is hard work, right? And I think I realized that, like, yes, much as I do love being on the ground, being in front of people, like, I got feelings, like, it's too many of them. So I'm at the protest, like crying my eyes out, bawling my eyes out. And so I think like while working and like supporting the Jacksonville Community Action Committee, I realized that cultural organizing is really what felt good for me and what felt sweet for me. It's like, how can I use my mixes to teach like people what is HB1, which was like a really huge and terrible bill that was happening in Florida, like getting like people's like testimony, like their court cases, and like putting that over music, and then using like sound bits from like protests and putting that into my music. And so I think I just realized that like, yeah, that's what feels good for me. That's what I feel like my gift to the movement is doing that, using DJing, using music, using facilitating to kind of like, skill up each other and like support.
What came first for you, like in your personal journey? Was it sort of like the community ties and activism, or was it the music, or do you feel like they crystallized together in the exact right time and space? Like, what was it that got you? I mean, because I'm asking, let me back up my own truck. Hello. I'm asking because to me, you're so fully formed, even as you not even dabble, immerse yourselves in all these different worlds, right? And the big picture of what I see you doing and the impact you're having feels so cohesive that it
Mm-hmm.
feels so intentional. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, nothing comes to be, nothing comes to existence fully formed already, right? So like, what was the first step in getting here for you?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think a lot of that has to do to my parents. My mom's Mexican. She's from Minnesota. My dad's Black from Chicago. And so much of like us as young people was us giving back.
Mm-hmm.
They grew up in welfare systems, right? Like my mom being a migrant worker, being country poor, my dad being inner city poor with welfare. And so, my mom really instilled in us, like, you have to give back, like, no matter what. As a young person, she was sending me to school with extra supplies,
Yeah.
extra paper, extra pencils. I make sure you give these to your friends if people don't have it, because they grew up in those systems and they know that a lot of it is like us supporting each other. These systems don't care for us. These systems don't work for us. And we are the ones that got us. And so I think a lot of that is what was like put into a lot of my work and what made me like so gravitate. It doesn't matter, like from the time I was in like elementary school to like high school to even beyond, we were volunteering somewhere, whether we was planting trees at the church. My brother was in football, so he was like 10 years older, so we were in the stands cleaning the stadium like after every Friday night lights, like triggered us hell. But yeah, we were always doing something. We were always giving back. And so when it comes to like supporting community, when it comes to like, supporting other people, that just is like second nature for me, right? And then music was like, some of my first times like going to dances or experiencing a DJ was like at my Mexican dance parties, like up all night, like partying till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and that was also in community. So it's like so much of my life has been like in community. So it just feels natural to do that.
That's so rad. I feel like community building, even speaking like personally for me, I'm an only child of a single mother.
Hmm.
And so we were very, very insular.
Hmm.
And there are certain places that I found community, like church was a big one.
Yeah.
But, I grew up in a neighborhood that didn't have any other kids in it. And like, like community building is something that's always like sort of front of my mind because I'm
Yeah.
still actively learning, even at my big age, how to do it.
Hmm.
Um, so this idea that it was just intrinsic to your upbringing and that sort of informed like every pursuit thereafter, I think is really fascinating and cool and refreshing, because I get a lot of questions from people, especially young people, about building and creating community, in
Mm-hmm.
this music business and like what that looks like, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, girl, I don't know, but
Yes, that's the
I know it takes
thing.
intention. I know it takes a little bit of courage. I know it takes a little bit of breaking out of your comfort zone. I know it takes a great deal of integrity and like really believing the thing, that grounds the community that you're looking to join, or be
Yeah.
a part of. So I really like the fact that, it's so intrinsic to your personhood that it's
Hmm.
like, informed everything, up to this moment. That's really, really rad. And you can feel that from you within the first, like 30 seconds of meeting you for the first time. I just remember thinking to myself, like, this is a person of the people. Like, this is like,
You.
I'm like, I felt myself building community with you, even,
I
as I was not
appreciate
being
that.
very thoughtful or intentional about it. I just felt it like happening, such a natural pull.
Thank you. Yeah, folks in Duval, they do call me the people's DJ.
Yes.
I definitely appreciate that. And I think, just to like circle back to a point I was making earlier, is just like realizing like where you sit in that community. Maybe you're not the builder, and that's okay. You don't got to be the builder.
Mhm.
Maybe you're the person that supports the builder, or maybe you're the person that cooks, or the person that's in the spreadsheets. We need all those people, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree with that. And that's something that like I'm constantly talking to myself about, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't necessarily feel natural at building community, but I love to build communities, and that's when I go find the G's of the world, that know how to do it, and to sort of like teach me and bring me along, and I have your documentation for you, boo. Like
That's it. That's
I got,
it.
I got
And
I
we
got
need
the
those
docs,
people.
I got the platform, like I got the logins, baby, like.
We need that.
Yeah. So when did you start DJing? And you do, I mean, I feel like we keep talking about DJing, but you're like the definition of a multidisciplinary artist. So I guess
Yeah.
like DJing, let's start there, just because that's how the community knows you at this point, because of
Mhm.
the workshop that you facilitated for us. But I want to hear about it all. Let's start with DJing.
Yeah, yeah. So DJing is actually one of the newest things on my plate, which feels like so wild because it just like as soon as I started, it just like took off, which I absolutely love. Like my first DJ gig, totally finesse. Like someone needed a DJ at like the gay club in my city, and I was like, totally yes. I've done parties. I did like one event with like 5 people. I was like, I had them pumping, I had them going. And I love to say that a lot of when I learned how to DJ was because of drag queens, because that was where I entered. Like I supported like the drag shows and learned real quickly, like, okay, baby, I'm about to change my whole setup. Or no, that's not the song. Or the equipment wasn't working and being like, fuck, this is a club. Oh, I don't know if I can cuss, but I
You
was like,
absolutely cuss. So I ain't so that I ain't the only nigga cussing.
and like having to learn things on the fly, like, oh, my equipment sucks, like I need to get a better controller, or like my computer cannot hold this. So learn things so quickly. And also like the club will let you know if it's popping or if it's not real quick. And so I learned about like, okay, how do I talk to a crowd? Because before that I was an MC, I was a singer and a rapper, so a lot of folks in my city knew me that way. And
Hmm.
so I knew how to talk to a crowd. Like talking to a crowd was like nothing for me. Like I went to art schools my entire life, like been in front of crowds like from the time I was like 6 on. And so it was just like learning more of like the chops about DJing. And for me, I'm always learning, always evolving with it. But I think what DJing taught me, which I want to bring into singing and into emceeing, is like the ability to play. Like it was something new. It wasn't something I wasn't classically trained on because I was a classically trained singer. And it was just like, okay, I don't have nothing. I don't have no manual. Like I can just like do this and it'd be fun. And girls rock also taught me that too, like what noise music is, what house, what is all this like different genres, and that there's no right way to do it. And so that was really dope. And moving on from that, I realized the club was not for me. I was not a club DJ. And I was like, yeah, this is whack. Like, my homies can't come to the club because we're broke. Like, I'm segregated to play. Like, I can only play like pop music on this night. If I want to play hip hop, I have to go to urban night. If I want to play Latin music, I got to go to Latin night. And something happened like the same year that I started DJing. Jacksonville was the epicenter for trans and gendered violence. And there was also no response from the gay clubs. I'm like, okay, so y'all not giving funerals, y'all not even saying these women's names. And I was just like, yeah, this is whack. And so I created a dance party called Duval Folks that was a response to that, but also like gave back to the community too, right? Because I was like, yeah, y'all can't pay for this, so let's do sliding scale. Like, pay what y'all got. If you ain't got it, y'all can still come to the party. White people, yes, y'all need to be paying me so that this party can continue to happen.
Party, yeah.
Yes, and it was like that was the way that I got paid the most at that time. Was like, wow, okay, sliding scale does work. Like, this is dope. And I think too, like what I had to realize as well, Jacksonville at the time, or Jacksonville is the largest city land-wise. So also commuting through the city is really hard because like our bus systems don't run late. And so being able to get into like the core of downtown is like was super hard for folks. So we also created like a carpool situation so that folks could get to the party too, you know? So it was a lot of work, and it continues to be a lot of work because is real DIY, real grassroots, but it was like, wow, no, this is what I need to be doing. This is what, like, curating space is what I need to be doing. Because from the moment that it started, it was like 300 people. We sold out the bar. Okay, we got to move to a different venue. Doubled that bar, doubled that space too. Like, all right, y'all. So let's go to a museum. And now, like the thankfully, the Cummer Museum, the Fine Arts Museum, we be having all these Black and brown babies coming up in there. And it's been such a great partnership to have. And just to see like intergenerationally, like all different kinds of people that come to this event. Because I really wanted the party to be as accessible as possible. So having it all ages was something that was really important to me, because a lot of my work, simultaneously being a DJ, is like working in an LGBT center. So a lot of young people, the first time that they were able to even experience like queerness was at a bar. And I didn't want that to always be like the thing, you know, like they should be able to go to a party where like other friends are there, where they can like dance or they can do art or whatever. So that was something that was really important to me.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make, because you know, I grew up in LA, so my experience as a queer person has been a little bit different, and I've had, you know, sort of like the privilege and the luxury of exploring that in a lot of different contexts by virtue of living in a big city on the West Coast in a liberal state. But in the South,
it's real raggedy,
especially when you're a queer kid of color. There's a lot of hiding involved. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of under the cover of darkness. It's a lot of, we meet at the bar because it's dark and everybody else in town is asleep. There's a lot of we're going places where like we won't run into like the church elders, and like a lot of, you know, we don't want to see our high school teachers out and about like with us holding hands. There's a lot of sort of like shame, and you know, it's just like, you know, and I love a gay bar, baby. Like, put me in the darkest, nastiest, stinkiest gay bar you can find in America, and I'll be happy. But you know, like that shouldn't be forced on you as your only queer experience coming of age. Like joyfulness and happiness and like brightness and like daytime and like being outside and you know what I mean, like all this stuff matters about how you think of yourself, and like as you're socializing yourself to think of yourself as queer and like building a queer community, you don't want to feel like fucking, you know, possums just like, you know, like walking around at night picking up scraps. Like, so I think that's really cool that like you did this with that mindfulness front and center, and I'm sure you've impacted quite a lot of lives doing so.
It's been great. It's been great, and it's been, you know, I really appreciate you too, like mentioning that distinction between like West Coast and Southern, you know, because it's hard, you know, and continues to be hard, especially not only having the space like be queer, but also like centering like Black and brown bodies was something that was really important too. Because yeah, a lot of the young people there are unapologetically Black and queer, and it's so beautiful to see because again, like that wasn't something that I was also growing up with. I came out really late, and as people like to say, I'm a queer bee or whatever the lingo is now, a newbie. And so it's beautiful to see like young people step into their queerness and be like out loud and unapologetic, and create that close safety like with them, that collective safety with them. So it's been great because it's been not only healing for them, it's also been healing for me to just like witness all these
Yeah.
like beautiful bodies like in space. I'm like, where have y'all been? Like, where y'all be at? Like, this can't be the
Where
only
y'all
place
be
you
at?
exist.
Yeah. Why only once a month?
Right.
No, I feel you. Since we talking that gay shit,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know yet. I guess I don't even know where we are in the radio verse at the moment, but I think the last show we did with Seven, who's
Yeah.
your fellow Teresa Velasquez Memorial Scholarship Fellow. And
Yes. Pew 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 pew.
I know the white people watching like, what the hell? Is there
What
someone
is that
like my
sound?
radio?
I'm
I'm gonna
dead.
get dinged for that. I'm gonna get in trouble for that, and I don't care. It was fun.
I love
Um, what is it? So like, I feel like you're a person that's constantly like taking very intentional journeys and like sort of jumping and diving into the unknown for your own um, sort of artistic and personal growth.
it.
And I remember I asked you sort of cavalierly and casually, I was like, hey, yo, you want to learn how to produce? And you were like, bet, I'm up for that. And I was like, okay, congratulations, you're my new fellow. And you were like, great. And it like that was the end of it. What are you hoping to get from this fellowship? Like, what do you want to walk away with? And like, how do you see it fitting in your next steps? Like, as you continue on growing as an artist.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that I can learn, more about sound. I think, like I said, as a young person, I was classically trained as a musician. And so a lot of times I can get into this space of like, wanting to be so technical, like when it comes to DJing sometimes. And as I'm starting to get more, I guess, like booked, getting more like attention around it, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of hyper aware of like, all right, G, you got to practice now. You can't just be out here like bullshit and like doing the work.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I
yeah.
think like learning like more of like the chops around like what DJing looks like what sound design looks like, especially with producing. I've been in studios like for multiple years. I work really closely with my producer. Shout out to Willie Evans Jr., who's an amazing producer. And I sat behind and seen like the Ableton like happen. I know how to press like record and stuff like that. But I think it's like diving deeper into that, like what do all these things do? And then also from like artists like aspect, like what can longevity look like in this field? I think that's something that I've been questioning a lot too. Like, okay, like I really do love DJing. I really do love being in community. Like I love facilitating. Like what can that look like long term? I think that's something that I'm hoping to like learn through. And then also just like build more community like in this. Like a lot of like when I entered DJing, it was around like cis men and like not having like that support. But now like being able to be like, oh no, there's like a plethora of like femme, like trans, like gender expansive DJs. And I think just having that community to lean on when like the bullshit does happen with like patriarchal violence, I can be like, yo, homie, how do I navigate this? I think most importantly, I think that's what feels good about this fellowship that I'm excited about.
That's dope. I'm gonna do our intro now,
Okay.
and I'm probably gonna make you repeat nearly everything you just said in the last 5 minutes. So we'll see how it goes. What's up, fam? This is her mix lot. You are listening to a very special edition of Femme House Radio on Sirius XM. Pass the mic, where we are elevating and amplifying LGBTQIA plus and BIPOC voices. I am here very, very privilegedly, if that's a word, with GeeXella, who is Femme House's community manager, newest Teresa Velasquez Memorial Scholarship Fellow, and just an all around bad motherfucker. a Black, Latinx, non-binary, and queer multidisciplinary artist currently located in Muskogee Creek Land, which you probably know as Atlanta, Georgia. Um, their work, as they see it, and as I'm sure all of you will see it, is an extension of cultural organizing for the liberation of Black and marginalized people. They founded Devolve Folks in 2018, a dance party that was a direct response to Jacksonville, Florida, at the time being a focal point for Black, trans, and GNC violence. They are dedicated and committed to using arts and culture to bring awareness to the intersecting difficulties that queer, trans, and BIPOC communities face in the South. And they're also just one of the most lovely, inspiring people I've ever met. We're just having a chat here. You're consuming this in one of two contexts, hopefully both. You're either watching us on YouTube or listening to us on the radio, but we were just chatting about community building. And, one of my favorite things about G is that they are actively and intentionally building community at every turn, not just for themselves, but for anyone they come in contact with. Tell me about the origins of that. Like, why is that so intrinsic to your personhood?
Thank you. Yeah, I think, like I said, a lot of that has to do with just like family, like my mother, my father, like just being so deep in community, being not able to have access to a lot of things. And so they really taught me the importance of like what community looks like, how can you be involved, and why it's important, because not everyone has all the things. A lot of my parents grew up with like welfare, father being like more so inner city, mom being more so like country, like, migrant worker. And so a lot of like what they taught us is just like, yeah, you got to look out for each other. These systems don't work for us. These institutions don't work for us. And so they taught us that like, yeah, we have to like have each other. We got basically was like the early stages of, of my work and what my parents taught me.
Yeah, it's wild that that's sort of a message that unfortunately carries, right? Like we all we got. And I even think of Femme House and like why we started it. Um, it was really to answer and address a really specific, what we thought of as simple question, and it's sort of grown as we've built it into a community as like a way to work within this system that doesn't really want us working with it, and also rebuilding it where we can, but mostly just sharing the resources and access, right, that we have, the opportunities, and making sure that everybody gets a piece and that everybody can see themselves having a piece and that everybody feels prepared to seize upon the pieces as they come. Which is why it's been so great to sort of like create family and community with you, because you started by, you interviewed me and LP for the Femme House tour for She Shreds. What was that now? A few months ago? Time is a flat circle,
I
so I
know. I
don't
was
know.
like, I don't even know when that was. It was like in March actually, because I was at South by Southwest like editing it, and I was just
That's
like, I'm
right.
so asleep.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Because you were like, hey y'all, I gotta go pack for South by. I've got like 38 gigs this weekend. I was like, okay, peace.
Listen,
And
it was ridiculous.
you did a good ass job. You didn't make us feel rushed at all.
No, no, never that.
But like that's what I'm talking about on the organic tip, like with the organic community building. It's just like, you have something that I like, I have something that you like, let's pull it together and see if we can grow it for other people to like it. Which is a really fun time. So you're our newest fellow, in addition to being our community manager, in addition to being like one of our newest workshop facilitators. In addition, you just like really hit the community running.
Listen,
um, One thing about you, huh?
listen. One thing about me, I'm gonna get a job while I'm on the job. Okay.
Okay, you gonna get a job while you on the job, while you creating the next job to go with your
Period.
other two jobs.
Exactly. It's just what I do. It's the hustle
Yeah,
in
yeah,
me.
you got my ass for all four of them shits within like 10 days, and I love you for it.
Listen, I was appreciative
Um,
of it.
so like, what's up with the fellowship for you? Like, how are you thinking of it insofar as how it fits into your artistic and personal and creative journeys heretofore?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to learn so much, right? Because you all offer so many different things. You all are in community with so many of my favorite like DJ crushes. And so it's just been great to also see that. Like, not only do I know you all from like doing the interview, but also just like knowing that you all have really been in this community, like giving back, like, you know, whether that was gear exchanges, whether that is like giving out free knowledge. And that's something that is really aligned with the work that I do. And so that feels really good. It doesn't feel like, you know, like fake or fugazi or any of those things. But I'm hoping to like also learn about like what sound design looks like. Something that for me, like as a young person, I was classically trained. And so like being able to kind of get more of that like DJing chops and not just like going out there and like just like pressing the things, but actually learning like what I'm doing. And so that feels really good to be able to know that and also just have community as well. I think that's something that feels really important to me because when I entered DJing, a lot of it was being around like cis men and not really seeing people that look like me. So it's dope to see that like this organization has touched so many different DJs, has supported so many different DJs that I love and that I look up to. And just like knowing that I can have that community like at any point feels really good and feels safe.
Yeah, that's really dope, and I appreciate you saying that. And I want to sort of like meditate on the meaning of the word safe real quick
Hmm.
because safety, like when we sort of conceptualize what this would be without even knowing what it would be yet,
Yeah.
the word that we kept coming back to was safety, and like what can people do when they feel as safe as possible? Like what limits does that remove from their capacity to learn? Like what limits does that um, remove from their capacity to like dream and like
Yeah.
create and all these things? Um, I'm really excited for you to experience the fellowship because yes, you're a bomb ass DJ, yes, you're a bomb ass
Hmm.
facilitator, but you're also a singer and an MC.
Hmm.
And imagine the possibilities that can be open to your own creativity just because you know how to put together an Ableton session yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, maybe you won't be the next Dr. Dre or like the next Missy. Actually, please don't be the next Dr. Dre. Like only for the rest of history, please. And I said it on the radio, and I mean it too. Um, I'm sure I'm like going up against Aftermath Radio right now and Sirius XM, and they're like, not this,
I'm dead.
and I still don't care. But you know, like maybe you won't be the next Missy, but you know, maybe you can lay down ideas faster and like hold
Yeah.
on to them longer
Yeah.
because you don't have to call up your producer and say, "Hey, yo, I
Hmm.
have an idea. Hurry over."
Hmm.
And that's sort of like what we were aiming to do with the creation of Femme House, and specifically with this fellowship and the BIPOC fellowship that we offer. It's just like, here are the tools.
Yeah.
They're yours. Use them.
Yeah.
The barrier to getting those tools can often be completely fucking insane, and
Hmm.
that's where you account for things like cost and just like knowing where to go to take classes, etc. So, um,
Exactly. And I think
I'm really,
that's important, you know, as a social worker and
yeah,
student. Your boy don't got the coins. So, so it's
yeah,
definitely appreciated in so many different levels and ways to like have this, you know. So
the show. Tell me two things that you want the community to know about you in advance of getting to know. They know, I mean, they know you. You're on the radio show. You know what I'm saying? You're about to drop a mix with us. Like you
yes.
facilitated a DJ course. You be all up in everybody's DMs. You be all up in Twitter. So like they know you, but like tell me something that you want them to know about you.
Yeah, I think something that I would probably want folks to know about me is that like I'm always learning. Like I'm out here faking it until I make it. Like so much of my DJing is was just me like finessing, like figuring things out. And also continuing to like use my strengths and know that like, okay, I know music, I know that I love playlists, I know that I love this, you know, and using that as an advantage. And I think too, like also like something that's important to me is community. Being a student is also something that's important to me. I'm back in school, like on my grind, you know, trying to figure out what that community looks like, you know, whether that's like college radio or that's like DJing for like a rally or something, you know. I think it's something that is important for me, is like figuring out where I can fit in, how I can support like the infrastructure, the community around me. I think those things are great. I'm also a plant dad. I love me some plants.
Yeah, your green lipstick definitely didn't give it away.
But yeah, I think those things are also just like really important to me. Is just like building out like all of my art and just like fusing it back into like whatever's around me. I just recently moved to Atlanta, so it's just like figuring out what that landscape looks like what are the needs in this community, like how can I be of support to this community. I think those things are always so important for me.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned and like specifically called out you being a plant dad, because I feel like you're watering a bunch of plants, like metaphorical plants.
Yeah.
You're watering an awful lot of figurative plants, and I feel like you approach everything that you do, not just with Femme House, but everything that I watch you do in your own personal life as like, you know, something that you're after with great intention, and that you're constantly watering and taking care of, and you know, changing the pots, and like, you know, making sure
Yes.
everything's cool. And that intention and that thoughtfulness is like really rare to come by, especially when it's so rare. Like that, I know so many jacks of many trades and masters of none, but like you really are dope and intentional and thoughtful and remarkably present in all the things that you do.
Thank you.
And they all can seem very different,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all a cohesive part of a journey, which feels to me like your personal journey. And it's just, I watch you and wonder, baby. I watch you and wonder.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think like as I got like older and, you know, just starting to get into more like how I say, like organizing spaces, is realizing like how much art and like organizing and, you know, all this stuff that we're like moving through in this like wild world is so like in harmony together, right? And I think once I started to realize that, it unlocked like so many more opportunities for me. I was like, you know what? As I facilitate, I'm gonna be talking about how I love doing like DJing and how sound healing is something that is like really important to me, you know? And when I'm in DJing spaces, like, yeah, I'm also a facilitator. I also do all those things. I mean, not only was bookings looking cuter, but also just like I could show up as my full self, right? And be like, yeah, like I love doing all those things. I don't have to choose. And I think it also like was in alignment when I was on my queerness journey and like growing up as someone who lived in the South, who was Black, who was Mexican, and being like, you know what, I don't have to choose like any of those things. Like, this is me. I'm all of me. I'm a Black Latinx person, and y'all just gonna have to deal with that, you know?
You gonna have to deal with every single bit of it. My lipstick is ringing, my outfit is slapping, my hair is popping, my pussy pops severely. Whatever. Period.
Exactly. Yes. And my headshot's gonna have my neck tattoo in it. Like, listen, never hiding like any of those things. And like everyone loves that. Like, it makes you such a more dynamic person, like not having to flatten yourself in any way. And so I think that was something that's really important for me too.
That's a good dovetail into my final question. And I don't know if it's going to make it to air. It'll definitely make it to YouTube. But you're sitting, I love to ask it of every interesting person I ever talk to. You're sitting in front of young G. What do you tell them?
Ooh, not inner child work. Don't do that.
Right on live on the air, baby. Recording 2 ways.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate this because as someone who is, you know, living with ADHD, someone who's living with like depression, anxiety, all these things, you know, talking to my new therapist, which he's amazing, by the way, D.O.D. You know, a lot of my work that I've been doing recently is like doing inner child stuff. And so every single day I had to, so one of my first like homework assignment with him was to change my my background to a picture of myself And so that when I'm doing this work, like I can, here I'm gonna show you, so the folks, it says Femme House interview at the top, but there's little GeeXella, little baby GeeXella. And, you know, being able to do that, it really makes me be like, okay, so this is how I can talk to myself, like, with compassion. This is because I'm looking at little G right now, like, and I would not talk to little anybody like wild or crazy. And so if I don't cry, because like I said, Cancer moon, okay, I'm gonna cry.
The thing about me is I make everybody cry because I typically need a cry. So, like, if we can cry, you would like go to the Femme House YouTube.
I love
stuff that's listed and unlisted. If I'm on it, especially with a person of color, like fast forward to the end, chances are we're crying.
I love it. I love it. But I think I would tell myself is just like, you know, continue to dream, like continue to know that like you can do anything that you want to do, like anything that your mind like comes up with, you can do it. And don't feel like you can limit yourself. Like this world is yours. Like take it, like keep going. And just don't flatten yourself. Like, you got this. And just know that you got this. And you're great and beautiful and perfect.
Wise words from a wonderful person that is beautiful and smart.
Thank you.
And capable. And quite frankly, aspirational. I'm her Mix-a-Lot. This is GeeXella. This is Femme House. You are Femme House. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. Hit GeeXella up in the DMs. They gonna be there anyway.
Yes.
Peace out, yo. This is my best boo.
Free your soul, free your mind, just let go. Free the people, free your soul, free your mind. Just let go. Free the people, 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 free the people. Free your soul, free your mind, just let go. Free the people, free your soul.